Who would have thought that Vekoma, the company once known for their head-banging rides and out-of-date shaping, would be building the masterpieces they have in the past few years. Interesting layouts, different track styles, and an original element style with very visually satisfying curves. From an overhead view, this Vekoma looks to have all the makings of a perfect coaster. But how does it actually perform? This is Abyssus at Energylandia. A review. Abyssus starts off with a kicky launch right out of the station. Riders flow around a small twister layout before popping up into a second launch. Up a top hat-like element, the ride continues through loops, airtime hills, a wave turn, and more before making its way into the final brake run. Now let's break down this coaster into the 5 key categories that I feel make a coaster great. The technical category is up first. 7 years ago, we would laugh if we heard Vekoma was building a double launch coaster that looked like this. What a pipe dream. So to see this coaster and what they've done to change the industry is just incredible. More Vekoma is something I never thought I would want, but now I want these things everywhere. They're quickly becoming one of my favorite manufacturers and finally pushing themselves when they need to into a decade that could be the best decade of coasters we've ever seen. The length is long, the layout is smart and uses the space well, it's smooth and has a fine throughput of riders. Unfortunately, there's still some problems. These are so well engineered to minimize lateral forces that I'm unsure why this has shoulder restraints at all. Velocicoaster also opened this year, feels much more out of control, and that is doing just fine with a lap bar. These OSTRs take so much away from this ride, it severely hurts the overall experience. The general public at this point are used to seeing lap bars in this new century of roller coaster design. So why are we riding this layout with uncomfortable shoulder belts? This layout looks to be perfect, small buildup into larger elements that seem to carry speed, but does it actually deliver them in excitement? Abyssus has everything to make an exciting ride. It sucks to talk about restraints again, but they really can kill this category. Restraints are important. You overhear people talk about them while in the park. They can't be overlooked, especially in this day and age. These are ruining airtime, ruining lightly fun laterals, plus the feeling of freedom that makes rides more thrilling and fun is totally diminished. If you like positive G-forces, this isn't the ride for you. So I should love it because it has fast fun and some awesome moments of airtime that really do deliver. But it's missing originality and that extreme shaping that you can see in other manufacturers. The airtime is rapid and over just a bit too quick. Where's that sustained moment of negative Gs? A steep air hill, a negative G stall? It's just missing the airtime that I and we all love, and that's really what is upsetting when this ride ends. The one standout exciting moment is that air hill after the loop. The rest, it just does a lot, but it doesn't do any of it excellently. The wave turn is arguably the worst that I've been on. There's some great twisted air hills as well, but then there's others that just kind of happen. A bit of a slow pace. This layout 10 years ago would be talked about by everyone, but today, it's just another really good coaster. I've said before how hard it is to get pacing and excitement to work well together. You can see that some of these elements are drawn out, which doesn't bother me too much right away, but there's other ways to do it. I dislike how new Vekoma frequently has the need to have these perfect curves in between every single thing. It works sometimes, but here it's just way too perfect. It's sometimes good to break up this constant flow with something that's just a bit more abrupt and memorable. This layout blends together too much. Give us an underground moment of airtime in the middle of that elongated batwing. Or just straight track would be better here. Think this way. When experiencing a moment of positive G-force, even a small bit of straight track that follows it can really do wonders to confuse your brain into the feeling that your body is floating upward. Look at the section of straight track after Hulk's first corkscrew. This straight section of track is one that follows sustained positive Gs. When in the middle of this section of straight track, your body and brain have this illusion that you're coming up out of your seat for a bit, even though you can see that it's just a moment of straight track. Same with Mako at the bottom of the first drop. That odd flat section adds so much to that otherwise standard pull out and up. Slap in some straight track at the bottom of this batwing and it would immediately become a more fun double inversion. Instead, it's extremely dull and forgettable, one of the more boring parts of the ride. There's other elements during the layout that are just as similarly boring when they could be the best parts of the ride. The trim on the top hat is ridiculous. I don't complain about trims often, but this thing hits so hard. Shape the elements differently if they run too fast. This trim even kills the airtime in the back row of this element.
Here we go.
The end of this ride is another buzzkill. It loses speed and just ends up meandering around for a bit before finding the brakes. Throw in something that grabs the rider's attention. A double left turn, a quick barrel roll, speed hills, a quick stall, anything to give that shock factor the ride is missing. It's okay to have a slow beginning build up to an epic end, but don't end the ride how it started. This ending was just missed opportunity after missed opportunity. Some low clearance theming elements could also really help this portion of the ride. Theming was said to be incomplete when I rode just after the grand opening. However, you can see where it's going, and it's nice to see that Energylandia is listening to its fans and adding theming to rides and attractions. There's near misses, trenches, and plenty of other theming elements that are nice to look at. It's obviously not at the quality level of Phantasialand, but it's so good to see a ride that easily could have been a parking lot coaster have this amount of theming. I'm not sure of the storyline, but I guess it's like you are flowing around some intense waves, plus the trains just look plain cool. The bright colors fit the area of the park well, and it's my second favorite part of the theme park to hang out in, right after Zator's main street. It's also less crowded and more open, so there's more space to sit back and relax with a beer or hang out at the bar. Vekoma has so much potential, but they just aren't there yet. If you were to read off this exact element set to a knowledgeable coaster fanatic who knew nothing else about the ride, they would flip about how great that ride must be. So why is Abyssus just so good? This is the third best ride at the Energylandia theme park, and that's really saying something. It's very re-rideable and fits the park nicely since it builds off of Formule, which is somewhat similar and one of the most popular rides there. Very good. Abyssus is a seriously good coaster, but it's missing those moments that blow your mind. The sustained G moments that riders come back for, the elements that people talk about. Poland has another winner on their hands as Energylandia. My personal favorite theme park continues to blow people's minds with its wild additions and making sure that it stays competing with top-tier parks around the world. Even with the mentioned issues I have with the ride, it's hard to go wrong with something so smooth and long with 2 launches. Abyssus ends with an 8.38. It still falls into a top 5% coaster, and it's too bad to see what it easily could have been. It falls somewhere in my top 30s, and also over on Instagram, the viewers of @AmusementInsider voted and gave the ride an 8.61. If you have ridden 100 roller coasters, this should easily find its way into your top 10 or possibly top 5. New Vekoma is pretty unbelievable, and they're on their way to being one of the best manufacturers in the world. Abyssus is a fun, re-rideable coaster that is worth going over to Energylandia to ride, but if it's your first time in the park, make sure to put Zator and Hyperion on the must-ride list before this one. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you.
There's like 2 gray out moments. It's not like, it's like flowy and good.
You know, I wanted the Batwing to be really intense.
But yeah, the Batwing wasn't really intense. The second launch, you gray out there. It's heavily trimmed at the top.
Yeah, that was a little disappointing.
Oh, I'm sure in the back, like that drop's gonna be great in the back.